Before setting down to complete today's activity, I went for a wander in the garden to seek some inspiration. I found this withered rosebud, which will become the subject of my mobile. This clay is suitable for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's quite clean, so it won't stick to your hand. It dries quite quickly, which is appropriate. It's not too heavy, and it's very easy to manipulate, even with small hands, so it's appropriate for children. We are going to use copper wire. This particular gauge is very appropriate. It's about 1 millimeter, and it's very useful because it can be cut with scissors, which is great for students. It's easily manipulated by hand, so it doesn't require the use of pliers, and it won't cut your fingers. We've used a very thin blue cotton sewing thread today, but any other sort of thin string would do just fine, such as fishing line. It's best to pre-cut the copper wire into 30cm strips so that it's easier to handle. For my first sculpture, I have chosen to mimic the formation made by the petals of the rosebud. To do this, I am creating a spiral with the wire. Okay, that's all I need, so I will trim the rest of the wire with the scissors. Now I will push the tip through like so. These are some wire sculptures I prepared earlier. This one is a representation of the green outer casing of the bud. This one is a representation of the stem. I've attached a piece of string to each of the sculptures. The strings are about 50 centimeters in length. It's better to make them longer than shorter, so later when hanging your mobile, you're able to cut it to the desired length. I'm going to use a knob of plaster to create a small sculpture of a rose petal. As I said earlier, this plaster is very easy to manipulate. Now that I'm happy with the shape of my rose petal, I'm going to take a chopstick and pierce a hole through the point where I want to hang it from. It's better to use a chopstick than a skewer, as a skewer has a sharp edge. Here I have the petal that I prepared earlier. Here I have the replica of the casing that the outer petals make in the rosebud. The last one is slightly more abstract. I created a thin layer of plaster, which I rolled over itself to create the nice pattern that you can see inside. That pattern resonates with me to the formation of the petals in a rosebud. Things to consider when arranging your mobile are the aesthetics, so where you choose to place each of the sculptures to create a story. The height at which you hang each of the sculptures, some might be higher, some might be lower, depending on their weight. This also links in with the weight distribution factor. Here you can see that I've hung one wire sculpture on either side and one plaster sculpture in the middle to ensure that both sides are balanced when hung. I lengthened this sculpture and shortened this sculpture to make it balanced, and that's working quite perfectly. I've added a piece of stronger string which the mobile will hang by. This is just your average yarn which is available from your hardware store. Now I'm just figuring out what length I need each of the sculptures to be in order to achieve balance. I've recognised that this one's heavier, so I've hung it quite high, and I've hung this one quite low to achieve balance. Aha! Great success! I've managed to balance them. Here, I have used sticky tape to adhere the string to the stick. However, a much cleaner alternative would be to use a glue gun and add a small dab of glue. Here I'm going to tie 2 strings to connect the top level to the bottom level. Voila! The finished product, a beautiful mobile inspired by the humble rosebud.